Taylor Gentry is an urban studies and public policy junior at Dillard. She's minoring in political science. The Nashville native is also a member of the DU Diamonds, and she joins us on Conversations in the Oaks. Hey, Taylor, how's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. You did a pretty honest interview with WSMV in your hometown of Nashville, and it was about your struggles, about your dad's struggles with COVID-19. So let's start with the most important question. How is everybody doing?
I am doing great. I did receive my clearance papers, so I am not dealing with COVID anymore. My dad is getting better every day. Hopefully, we're looking to have him cleared early next week. And then we can get back to our normal activity while also practicing social distancing. We're all kind of looking at this virus a little differently and taking it a lot more serious. So, a lot of things will be changing in our household as far as cleanliness and, like I said, wearing your mask at all times, especially when you're out. So those are just the little things that will be changing around here, so we don't have to deal with this again.
So, for those who don't know, how did all of that come about? How did you find out about it? How did your dad find out?
So I know that I got sick 2 days before I got tested. I was sick. I had a fever, I had chills, the whole nine, regular symptoms of cold and flu. And then the next day, my dad said that he wasn't feeling well either, and he was really tired and whatnot. And so that Tuesday, I had a virtual doctor's appointment, and he suggested at the end that the both of us go and get tested. So we went to go that same day after my appointment, and we went to the drive-through. And then that Friday, we both got the call that we had tested positive. But by then, I had no fever. The only thing that I was dealing with was loss of taste and smell and fatigue. He was dealing with fever, fatigue, sore throat, all like the whole nine, body aches. It was really, really bad. So we got to see two different extremes of what the virus can do to you. And I was in quarantine for 2 weeks, and I just received my clearance letter a couple of days ago. So
Okay, so a couple of days ago, and right now, at the point of this interview, we are at Friday, July 3rd. So,
yeah,
1st of July, you were able to get your clearance papers, it sounds like.
yes, the 1st of July.
It sounds like you and your dad had two different things going on. It sounds like, you had one set of symptoms and he had another set of symptoms. So does that fit what you have seen or what you have heard or what you've read about COVID that what a lot of
Oh,
us are kind of
definitely.
afraid of is that you just have no idea what it's going to be.
Well, I always, when when you get tested positive for the virus, you have to tell people that you've been around, like, hey, I've tested positive for this virus, suggesting that you go get tested. It's good. I let my friends know, seeing the difference between my dad. There are different cases. You can have a very low case, which is basically being asymptomatic. You don't have any symptoms at all. You can have a mild case, which was what I had, a slight fever for that one day, and then dealing with some cough and then the fatigue and then loss of taste and smell. But I'm over that now. And then you have severe cases, which was like my dad. He's very tired, you're weak, body aches, fever. For he had a fever and 101 for 10 days, it seemed like. And so, and they encourage you, not to go to the hospital unless your breathing starts to act up. So that's the one thing that didn't happen. So we were able to just keep him here and keep him rested. And so there are different levels to this, and it is depends on your age as well. I'm only 20. He's a lot older than me, so he's gonna take it harder than I will. But there are different extremes. You're not don't everybody. A lot of people thinking you have corona and think you're gonna die. That is not the case at all.
Mhm.
That is definitely not the case. There are different levels to the virus, different extremes in different cases. You can have a very asymptomatic case, a mild case, which would be mine. You have a severe case, which would be his, but it didn't go all the way to having to have like a ventilator or something like that. It didn't get that serious, but it was pretty severe.
Right now, at this point in the news cycle, there have been these really weird stories and wild stories about college students your age, who are having so-called COVID parties. Um, as a college student, as their contemporary, what's the first thing you think about when you hear that?
That's crazy. It's real. This virus is killing people. People are going to the hospital. People are losing their lives because of this, in only a matter of days. And so we need to be more vigilant and take this more serious. Seeing who gets sick first is not funny because that person can get sick first and have a very severe case and lose their life. But because you decided to play around with it, people think that wasn't going to happen. It was just going to be a little joke, and then they quarantine for 14 days and they'll be okay. But that's not always the case.
You are tuned into Conversations on the Oaks. I'm Eddie Francis, and our guest is Taylor Gentry. She's a junior at Dillard, and she's been battling COVID-19. Well, she just got a clean bill of health, thank goodness, but her dad is still working through it. And I think one thing that a lot of people want to know, especially people who are, as you can see, I'm at home like everybody else, still sheltering in place. You're sheltering in place. I think what a lot of people are trying to figure out is, okay, if I do feel something, if I get this thing and I know what it is, what do I do to take care of myself? What kinds of recommendations did you and your dad get to take care of yourself?
So, as we all know, there is no cure for the
Right.
virus as of now. So, what they encouraged us to do was to continue, depending on your symptoms, continue to take your cold and flu medicine. Um, Continue to take your vitamins, vitamin D, vitamin C, whatever you need. The elderberry tea, I've heard has worked. Water, that is the most important thing. Staying hydrated, keeping water in your system. And then cleanliness that's really the cure for this virus. It's staying clean, making sure your house is sanitized and disinfected the right way. Because we have the virus, some of these things are things that people do anyway. But taking showers every day is something that everybody does, but multiple showers a day, washing your sheets and your clothes more frequently than you normally would. It's like here, it seems every 2 days there's something in the wash here. Every time we take something off, it's going in the wash. Changing your clothes, washing your hair for the ladies and the guys with hair. It's in your hair. You can get it through switching shoes with people and your feet. So I've had to, my little sister wears my flip flops sometimes. We disinfect them when we do the exchange when she gives them back. And so those are just little things. But I would say the main cure for this virus to me right now is staying clean and practicing the social distancing and mask and glove technique that they've encouraged us to do since this started.
So it sounds like this has been, it sounds like this has been a heck of an education process for you and your family. I mean, some of the things that you mentioned, the things honestly I haven't heard, I haven't read, and so it seems like you really learned a lot about clothing and in high touch surfaces, maybe even low touch surfaces. Did you and your family have a lot of aha moments along the way?
I mean, speaking for myself, I'm pretty sure we all did. I know I definitely did. Like, there's some things that you just intentionally don't do that you'll hear, maybe you should do this. And it's like, well, yeah, that probably would, lower the risk of, contracting the virus. And it's also something that you have to washing your hands frequently. Every time you leave from a different part of the house, you need to hand sanitize or wash. When you touch something, you need to disinfect it. It's just something that's become second nature for us now. And it's just, at first, we already knew that disinfectants and hand sanitizer would get rid of bacteria and viruses, but for it to now become second nature for you to do it every time, and it's just like I didn't know that it would come to this, and this is something we would have to do, but it's necessary and it works too, which is most important.
You're listening to Conversations on the Oaks. I'm Eddie Francis, and Taylor Gentry is our guest. And the fall is coming. Dillard is excited to have students back on campus. We know that Dr. Kimbrough is very excited to have students back
Yeah.
on campus, and a lot of students are very excited about the prospect of returning for the fall. Of course, it's going to look a lot different than previous falls have for Dillard. What about you? How excited are you about going back to campus?
I am ecstatic. I know that I've had the virus and people look at me crazy, especially now that I've had it and it's go in New Orleans, which is that's a very high risk there. But I'm ready. I trust that Dillard is doing what needs to be done. to ensure our safety. And that's fine. But I am making myself trust that my peers will do what they need to do to ensure our safety. Wearing the mask on the oats, abiding by the rules, even in our own spaces. Still not sure, being a junior, upperclassman now, I'm not sure what my living situation is going to be quite yet. But whatever it is, if even for the freshmen and sophomores, if you're in the dorm, making sure don't just depend on maintenance to keep our space clean. They work outside of the rooms. They work in the halls. You need to do your part within your room, in your dorm, making sure it's sanitized, disinfecting and whatnot, doing all that, washing your hands. Like I saw, we have the hand sanitizer stations coming up in Dent and other places around campus. So, like I said, I'm confident that Dillard is preparing for us in the safest way, but I'm also encouraging and hoping, and like I said, making myself trust that my peers will do what needs to be done so we can get back to school in the fall, and so we can stay in school in the fall. So that's what I'm hoping for this year.
Yeah, remote learning, while it's been useful for a lot of people, it hasn't been a very popular thing for students across the country, honestly. And so, you want to make sure that you're able to stay on campus. You want to make sure that your peers are able to stay on campus once we get back in the fall. And you just laid out some really great advice. So, what else would you tell? As a matter of fact, what about peers helping peers? How do you see that happening? You see somebody walking across campus, this person is not wearing a mask. So how do the peers really encourage each other to take those best steps so that Dillard is a safe campus, or any college campus is a safe campus?
Um, I mean, it would just be as simple. I mean, if I saw that, it'd be as simple as me saying, "Hey, you need to mask up." I mean, it's really that simple. Me just saying, it's important that you wear your mask. You're endangering a lot of other people on campus. This isn't just about you. You got faculty, you got students. We have kids that come on campus sometimes that we have to be concerned about. And if you don't want to protect yourself, at least look out for the people around you. So, like I said, I would just say it. You need to put your mask on. You need to have some hand sanitizer on you. You need to back up from me. It's just a lot of things that I don't, especially now that I'm one of the youngest people that I know that has publicly admitted to not doing the right thing and contracting this virus. So I don't have a problem publicly telling somebody what they need to do so I don't get it again. I don't want to go through this again. It's not fun. So I don't want anybody else to go through it at Dillard. I don't need anybody else putting other people in danger at Dillard, especially myself. So I don't have a problem saying what needs to be said. You have to step up. It's just about taking the initiative and telling and not being afraid to tell people what they need to do. Now, I also will say what they decide to do once you tell them is very personal. You can't force somebody to do anything. I know I can't, as a peer, I can't force somebody to do anything, but me taking that initiative and stepping up and saying something is one step closer to encouraging that person to do what they need to do.
So you mentioned that there were some things that you did that probably weren't the smartest things to do. I mean, what was it that you did that you think really put you in a danger zone there?
So to just give you the timeline, back in the end of May, my peers and I at home, my graduating class, we suffered a tragedy within the class with the loss of one of our classmates.
Mhm.
And after that, we just started hanging out with each other. We started going over each other's houses. And at first it was small. It was small, masks and everything. We were doing all that. And then the funeral came and we had to wear masks and gloves, but we were still embracing each other. And then after the funeral, we were going to have throwing little parties and stuff, trying to keep it down, but they ended up getting bigger and the crowds got bigger. And then after that, I just got comfortable. My dad and I went to a march that was very, very crowded. We did have our masks on, but the 6 feet was not a thing. Like I said, I went out to about two lounges here in the city, and after that, but it's like the day after I went to the second lounge I went to, I caught a fever. that next day, and that started everything. Um, that happened to me with that. So I'm willing to admit that even when I did go out, I didn't have the mask. I left the mask in the car. I just kept it in my purse. I never really put it on because, when you go out to a lounge or a club, you don't want to, that's not, in a young person's mind, we don't want to be walking around like that. We want people to see our face and everything we have on. And we just got comfortable. The city started opening back up. So we just thought everything was cool. And that's basically the truth. And it wasn't cool. And we just got comfortable. We got caught slipping, literally. We are good. So.
It's interesting. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine not too long ago, and one of the things that we talked about was that you hear people say, I did everything the right way and I still caught it. And one of the questions that hangs in the back of my mind is, well, there had to be something that you probably didn't do. And I don't think it's an indictment on anyone's character, but like you mentioned, you saw friends, you got comfortable with the situation. And of course, when you see your friends, you're happy to see your friends. And so it seems like, and I think a lot of us think about this, but I think those of us who have not had the virus, we tend to really forget that it's very easy to let your guard down.
It is very easy to let your guard down to the point you doing everything you're supposed to do. To be transparent, some will say, even myself, there is a strong possibility that I gave my dad this virus. But aside from that, my dad did everything he was supposed to do. He was always masked up. Every time he went out, he's a government official, so he has to go to work. They had, different kind of schedules, but my dad also went to those marches as well. He had on his mask. He tried to practice social distancing as best as he could, but it gets crowded. So sometimes, even with the people that are doing what they're supposed to do, you can't control what's going on around you all the way. And so sometimes, like I said, you can get caught slipping, and it's not hard to contract this virus at all. It's really not. And so, like I said, just the simplest thing, somebody just being too close to you can be doing your part, but somebody being too close to you, that can be the way that you contracted this virus. So it's very easy to do everything you're supposed to do and still contract the virus, even with letting people in your house. So in your house, that's where you really feel comfortable. So if you let one person in your house, I don't need a mask. That one person, you don't know where they're coming from. And that could be the reason that you contracted the virus. So it's not, if you did everything you were supposed to do, it's not always your fault that you got it. But I also don't encourage people to go playing the blame game either. You have corona. Just do your 14-day quarantine, and now you know what you need to do so you don't get it again. And that's just what I would say to that point.
So just to lighten the mood just a little bit, you're back on campus, you see friends, but you know that you're practicing social distancing. Now, I asked some of your peers this, and I have some ideas coming, but have you thought about what kinds of creative distance greetings you're going to do with your friends when you see them back at DU?
I know I'm going to want to embrace everybody. That's going to be the first thing that comes to my mind. But I mean, I guess it's just going to have to be hey, I missed you, air hug, all of that, because I can't trust it. I know, personally, I just can't take the risk in the embracing with people for different people all at once. And I'm not saying that they have corona, but like I said, I don't know where they're coming from. I don't know who's been around them. And so we just gotta suck it up and, hey, how you doing? Air hug. I mean, even elbows, I've seen people doing that. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with just touching elbows or fist bumping or something. But all the hugging and shaking of hands, I can't do that. We can't do that.
I'm trying to get myself used to doing the namaste bow. So I'm just that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to just respectful bow, namaste bow, whatever it is going to be. That's what I'm trying to get myself there, because I'm like you, I'm a New Orleanian. So I as a native New Orleanian, I'm always, somebody's always wanting to hug. I'm always wanting to hug somebody, but now that's been, that's all out of the window. So just look forward to it. When I see you back on campus, Taylor, it's going to be
Yeah, definitely. I'll be ready for that one.
Well, definitely. What are some final thoughts that you think you may want to share with your peers in coming back for the fall? I mean, you already shared some great thoughts about distancing and about cleansing and about masking. When we reconnect, what are some other things that come to mind that you might want to really really want your peers to remember?
Um, well, to start out, before we come back, while you're still at home for this next month and some change before we do come back to school, do your part in your city. So the people in your city, your city can open back up and go back to life as normal. Also, do your part in your city so you don't bring anything back to Dillard. When returning to Dillard, we are all coming to a very high risk city and environment. um, we have to do our part. You need to come prepared. If you need to go buy some masks ahead of time, have it. Have your cleaning supplies ready to go when you move into your dorm. Um, all the going out, we love to go out to these parties at the beginning of the year. Bourbon is always a spot that we go to. We're gonna have to make some sacrifices on the turn up. We're gonna have to find some creative ways to do some safe turnups on campus or something. We can't just go out into the city and live life as normal. So I just need everybody, including myself. I have had corona, but there are also some things I've been looking forward to doing when I get back to New Orleans. But I have to get in my mind things are going to be different. Some things are going to change. I can't do everything that I probably would normally do if this was a regular year without COVID. So it's just the fact of getting your mind right and wrapping your head around doing your part, social distancing, wearing your mask at all times, having hand sanitizer, having to wash your hands very frequently, wash everything around you frequently. And so that's just what I would encourage my peers to do. Just go ahead and prepare yourself for it. Don't complain. Don't get mad. Unfortunately, that's just what we have to do. It's necessary and it should be required. I'm sure it's going to be required. So we just need to go ahead and get our heads wrapped around that.
Taylor Gentry is a junior at Dillard, and she's in urban studies and public policy junior. She's minoring in political science. She's one of the DU Diamonds, and she's in Nashville. Looking forward to coming back to New Orleans to hang out at good old Dillard under the Oaks. Thanks a lot, Taylor, for joining us on Conversations on the Oaks.
No problem. Thank you.